Hello and welcome to the Dead Unicorn. My name is Corey and I'm here with Tarek and we're playing nothing. We're just checking out this book, Legend of the Five Rings Shadowlands. Last time we checked out Rid of the Wild, which was the last book that they put out. And this week we're doing one of the first. It was the first of their clan books.
Starting with crab.
Well,
Crabs everywhere.
Sorry, my cat's in the background making some nonsense.
Get out your crab.
So we put a poll up asking everybody to tell us what they would like us to review next from Legend of the Five Rings. And the crane and the crab were very voracious, going after, like, one would come up and the other would come up. But in the end, the crab won. You crab people, you're very devoted to your clan.
Crab.
They took this as like a clan thing and not like a what's the best to review thing. It was more of a pride for their chosen Legend of the Five Rings samurai clan, which is an odd thing for a role playing game, but also kind of cool.
Fans are fans. Fans like their clans. They like their plans. They like their all that stuff.
Anything to count coup on anybody else. It's just like, no, it doesn't matter how small it has to be. This review is crab, and it's first because
Because the crab are number one.
The crab are number one, baby.
They got one thing, and it's being crabby. Oh, and having a wall.
They have this wall right here that's on the cover. It's a big, like, it's supposed to be
Wall.
It's supposed to be analogous to the Great Wall of China, but instead of holding back Mongols, it holds back like literal demons,
Literal monsters.
And what does that say about what L5R thinks of Mongols?
Or what does that say about what L5R thinks walls are for?
Have you ever watched that movie? I think it was called The Wall, and I think Mark Wahlberg was in. I don't know.
It's a wall movie made by the Wahlbergs about walls. Got it.
No, I forgot who was in it. I think maybe Matt Damon. I have no idea who's in it. But it was the Great Wall of China, and there were actual, like, demons running at it. It was built for demons, not for the Mongols. And they had to, like, defeat these demon alien creatures.
I've never seen this. No, that sounds like a really intense fucking
You know what?
movie.
Now I gotta look it up.
Now we gotta know about it.
Hold on. Great Wall of China monster movie. The Great Wall film. 2016.
You gotta send me this movie.
It's got who does it have in it? Matt Damon. Yeah, it's Matt Damon. Matt Damon, Willem Dafoe, Pedro Pascal.
Oh, I love Willem Dafoe.
Yeah. I knew this movie existed. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it is pretty wild. That sounds like an unhinged idea, but then again, that's basically the plot of this book. There's a big wall, lots of demons on the other side, fight to the death.
Fight to the death. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the Great Wall is, I don't know, maybe somebody read Legend of the Five Rings and they thought, hey, maybe I can make that into a movie and not reference Legend of the Five Rings. We'll because this is 2016 and Legend of the Five Rings has been around since like the 80s.
Yeah. 90s, I think.
Oh, the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah. The 90s. So let's talk about the book, shall we?
Sure.
Brother from another mother. So,
What did it say?
I gotta say, this book is night and day. Hold on, I'm having that same streaming problem I had last week, where
Uh,
it
you're,
goes up and down and up and down.
I'm hearing myself coming through you, so I'm gonna switch the speakers over to my headset and see if that doesn't. Okay. Now I have you in my ears.
Okay. Um so this book is like night and day from Writ of the Wilds. Uh, I I don't know why Writ of the Wilds isn't as well. Let's talk about some of the differences here. First off, this
Sure.
book knows what it is. It's not all over the place.
No, it is very focused.
It's very focused. It's the Shadowlands and even the Falcon clan, which deals with like ghosts and stuff, seems to like tie into all of that.
Oh yeah. And the maps and history and mythology and stuff that they cover in here is all centered around or like couched in this idea of what is the Shadowlands? What does it mean to the culture of Rokugan? What does it mean to the players who are interacting with it at any level, whether they're in the Shadowlands, on the board of the Shadowlands, or just like about what they've heard about the Shadowlands. Pretty good about that.
Yeah. The introductory story is a good introductory story. I liked it.
Yeah.
And then it jumps right into the Shadowlands and how it was created, and why it exists, why it got stopped, all of those things. It's and a nice
Bit of creation. Yeah.
and a nice
Wonderful.
map, kind of showing where everything is.
I love the map of that they include in the beginning of the book of Crablands and then the Shadowlands as like two competing forces. Um, the weird thing is the Festering Pit of Fooling art. Beyond lies the Festering Pit of Fooling, that little art there. The
Mm-hmm.
guy riding like a sandworm. Very Dune.
One of the things. So one of the big things in old L5R in black canon, I like to call the old canon black canon, this canon red canon, because the color of the books were black back then and they're red now. So
Yeah, that's
right.
fair.
So back in black canon, the scrolls, the black scrolls, were all unleashed and Fooling came back. Here,
On the second day of Thunder,
yeah, here they say that black scrolls exist. It doesn't where the black scrolls are, why, like they allude that some places in the Shadowlands are home to these black scrolls. But like, how do the black scrolls work? Do you in the old canon it was you just open them and you unleash like a piece of
and not only that, but a
Fuleng?
plague, some kind of doom upon a clan also got
Yeah.
released there too. Each one had a doom of a clan, spelled the doom of a clan, and also because of Fuling's hate for that clan or whatever of that founder, and then also some kind of a plague or illness, wasting diseases, and all kinds of stuff was tied to it. And they weren't in the Shadowlands, if I remember correctly. They were
No.
in Phoenix Lands and a bunch of other like temples that held them to like
Mm-hmm.
protect them.
Mm-hmm. So here it's like a more nebulous thing, I guess. And it doesn't actually tell you what these black scrolls are, except
What they do
they
as
stop
artifacts.
fooling.
Yeah.
Um,
They bind him.
uh, so it goes into like what the corruption is, and then different places in the Shadowlands, how to stave off the Shadowlands taint, all of that, and then has a robust selection of cool monsters
NPCs.
to use.
Yeah. I love that. I also like how they talk about the taint more in depth here. I think that's important to like
The
wrap
what?
your head around as a concept. The taint,
Yes.
like they talk about the taint of the Shadowlands a lot more in this book. They expand upon it in the base book. They don't really talk about it that much. They just kind of touch on it a little bit. But this really helps you to kind of solidify your understanding of what Rokugan's up against in a sense.
There is a sidebar. I think it's somewhere in the back of the book about um like not portraying the Shadowlands, including horror. Yeah, page 123.
Or
And this is about like running Shadowlands games, and it talks about, hey, uh, people wanted to play Legend of the Five Rings for samurai drama. That's the first thing they think about. They want to do courts and duels and that sort of thing. So people might be put off by the horror element and, the Gaki and the Oni and, all of that kind of stuff. So just be warned about that. And
I
I can't help thinking that uh, the Shadowlands had always been like center stage. Like it's always been.
Yes, from the beginning of the game. That was even the origin story centers around the good Kami falling and then the bad Kami fell, and he turned into a bad boy by falling into a pit. He got mud on him and then he never recovered. That I think that was supposed to be the like main conflict. Also, like you get into clan war and it's more like internal politics, but that's because you have effectively nullified the forces of the Shadowlands after the Day of Thunder and the Second Day of Thunder. You don't have to really worry about Uleng as much anymore because you've stopped his incursion and you got another like 1,000 years before he comes back. But you still have all of the Shadowlands forces still there. And that's a running theme of the Elphvar plots, is that the crab are the only ones who are really constantly aware of how much of a threat is posed by the Shadowlands, where people inside kind of have forgotten about it. And I feel like that has always been center stage, that constantly looming threat of the Shadowlands, and we lose a bit by moving that out of the foreground. But I think that might be because most modern players of Elphvar aren't really tuned in to that aspect of the story, maybe, or they're new to it and only see it as a samurai drama. I don't
think it has anything to do with the players. I think it has to do with the writers and the direction that they wanted to take L5R after Fantasy Flight got the license. They wanted an entirely kind of new direction. The thing is that there's an entire clan, a major clan, who's in all their deal is evil Shadowlands demons, and
fight us every day.
yeah, it's an everyday thing for us, and this is all we kind of do. And we even have special techniques and spells and stuff that just simply focus on demons. That's it.
Dealing with things that are tainted.
Like,
I agree. It's a weird decision to not highlight and center this as part of Rokugani life in Elphvar.
I mean, I would have to specially tell people, hey, there's not going to be Shadowlands. This is going to be a political samurai drama. There's going to be no demons in it. So all of those like techniques that only work on Shadowlands stuff, you should kind of skip for that. You have, otherwise, like, it's expected that this is in the game. To me,
yeah, this is supposed to be there. And not only, in my opinion, should this be in the game as a whole, or in the mythology, the like setup, the setting, but it should also not be limited to being just for the crab either. I think in games that I run for L5R, I also like to include the Shadowlands and the like mythological evil sprinkled throughout the world as well, because that's like a part of the Japanese kind of mythology and the Asiatic mythology coming together to make this kind of like darker tone that of like evil spirits and tainted beings and stuff like that. Like those are everyday kind of like facets of life in Japanese history and Japanese mythology. So why not include that outside of the wall? Like, it doesn't matter if you're just at the wall. Kappa demons can be there. You could have these weird, like, Penangolins, I think is what they're called.
Penangolins, yeah.
And so you can like bring out some of these creatures whenever.
Shadowlands creatures that just look like regular people can, the
lost.
The wall doesn't go all the way. I mean, they can kind of,
get around it.
I mean, the best way and the way that the big monsters want to do is just hit the wall. But there are sneaky Oni, there are sneaky Shadowlands creatures, and they do sneaky stuff. And also there are Mahosukai that summon these things from beyond.
Exactly.
But they go into that. They talk about that.
Exactly. But
when
that just adds to the idea that you don't need to limit this or remove it from your like samurai storylines. They can be a part of it and can add flavor and add depth to your storyline regardless.
so I'm at the back of the book because we're already talking about this kind of stuff. So we might as well talk about, since we're talking about running Shadowlands games, like spending opportunity in Shadowlands games. There are 3 tables of how to spending opportunities in the Shadowlands, spending opportunity against tainted creatures, spending opportunity while tainted. Yeah, it's just there's a whole bunch more stuff to look at with every
A
roll you
bunch more
make.
opportunities. Yeah, every extra opportunity table. I don't know how to feel about it because on one end, like it's interesting extra stuff that you might be able to do only in these certain circumstances, but at the same time, like you already have such a massive table of these things that if you don't do something like you did and compile them all into a singular document where you can see what you can do with everything, then it's a hell of a time trying to get through and figure out what is it that I can do at any given moment. VTTs simplify this, but if you're playing an in-person campaign, you need handouts. You just need to
Yeah.
create so much more.
Uh-huh. And
Otherwise, there's no other way.
who's going to everybody looks at general and skirmish. Nobody even looks at this stuff. No one cares about this stuff. But uh there's role playing Maho Sukai. There's a section about, it's just like a couple paragraphs about playing Maho Sukai characters.
What page is that?
I believe it's, there's no page numbers on
'Cause I
this.
know that there's the
125.
afflicted. Which one?
125, playing Maho characters. It's basically saying, hey, if there's like one Maho character, it might cause division in your party. You might not want to do that. If you're like all Maho Sukai, that might be the better way to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it talks about Maho in games. And like if one of your characters uses a Maho spell to like do an honorable thing but taints themselves, that might be like a cool story beat. But the thing is like every time somebody runs into taint or an oni or Maho, the first thing everybody jumps to is, now we have to kill that person, now we have to destroy that thing.
Yeah.
And it's
a visceral reaction, right? There's a visceral sense of horror that's tied to it in L5R. People who aren't couched in having played L5R before, I think, don't inherently have that reaction. But people who do immediately kind of jump to that.
So when the Emperor says, you know, hey, this is the evil thing, this is what you do, it kind of puts a hard line on that, and that people get that in their head, that there's a hard line. And with new players and old players alike, when in my games, when I present something that may be quote unquote evil, or even just a Shadowlands thing, and I want people to interact with it more than I stab it, it's really hard, extremely hard to do. Goblins in D&D used to be, oh my god, we need to kill these. There's a goblin infestation. There's no talking to them. Let's go and start a warband and an adventuring party and take out the goblin horde. And nowadays it's, oh, that's Big Stinky and he's part of the group.
Yeah.
He says, don't worry about him. Yeah, he's a goblin.
Don't worry about Stinky. He's a good guy.
He's a good guy, Big Stinky over there.
He makes a mean shrimp fried rice. He's an excellent cook. Doesn't look like it, but he's an excellent cook.
So D&D was able to overcome this problem. L5R, it's more baked in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the xenophobia and like fear of the other is baked in really hard to this game in terms of like monstrous races, monstrous creatures, shadow, like the differentiation of having, this is something that's a tainted creature that is otherworldly and like outside of your realm of experience, bakes in the inherent like we need to like separate ourselves from it. The fact that there's a giant wall bakes in the idea that you have to separate yourself from it. and protect yourself from it. I feel like the crab have much more like inherently in the storylines and the like discussions and expanding of the race or like the clans. The crab have, because of their proximity to the taint and they're like, if this is an everyday threat to us, they have a bit more leeway to give credence to people who are tainted, right? Like they if a berserker on the wall gets tainted, they're not just going to kill that guy and send him off to his death. They're going to try to treat it as like an affliction, an illness almost, and keep that person around because that's another valuable resource on the wall. They're not going to just they have to.
You don't.
Where you get further removed from that is where, and the closer you get to more like super honorable clans, I feel like the more you get that visceral reaction of just like kill it with fire.
They do cover that in this book, and that's great. It gives that other side of that coin, and they explain it in a way that is much. That's better than how I'm explaining it right here, right now.
Yeah. They do. They give multiple perspectives. I think it's difficult unless you're having like a group of players who have an understanding that this is going to be more realistic or more like pragmatic approaches to these problems. You're going to have that visceral reaction, I think, that you were describing earlier. That like players who are like, either one, I'm not comfortable with this, or two, I don't know anything about it, so I'm just gonna either burn it with fire or let it happen 100% and not give any kind of pushback to it. Because I noticed in our game sessions when we went into the Shinneman Forest and we were in the area of blood, like half the characters were like, they're fine, these creatures are fine, this is fine, let's treat them well, and a couple of us were like, this is probably very concerning, we should probably do something about this, because that's what like honor would dictate that we do. And so I still think there's like it's of two minds. If you're couched in like the D&D world and you're coming to LFR for the first time, you might not have any understanding of this, especially if you haven't read this book or been exposed to this book. You might just be like, who cares if it's Shadowlands? It's a nice look. He's got a funny hat on. He's running around all weird. He's fine. Don't worry about it. He hasn't done anything to us. And then he summons a poop demon, and you're like, oh, okay, no, I get it. Now I'm putting things together. This is probably an issue we should deal with.
Let's talk about Maho. Let's talk about the Maho
let's do it.
Techniques. There's Maho in the main book, and then there's new Maho techniques here. And these are the only two places you can find Maho spells in all of the L5R books, the main book and this book. And
that is true.
They are all underwhelming. I think there's one spell that is at the same level as a invocation, and that is where is it? It's Shape the Flesh. Shape the Flesh is a rank 4 spell, so it's a really high one, but it actually does something that helps you in combat. Everything else, everything else is like, you have to do things really, really sneaky. And as soon as you do something, someone's going to figure out that it's you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Accursed Summoning is also one of those things that's like very out in the open.
Where is it?
You're going to have trouble.
Oh, yeah.
It's the first rank 1 technique in the book.
Yeah.
You're gonna have trouble convincing people that you're doing a good thing here. Like, let me slit some blood out, and then summon an Oni.
But here's the thing,
and convince you that this is not a problem.
Let's say that I have an NPC that's a Maho Sukai, right? And I want to pit it against the PCs. Well, the Maho Sukai has to do an accursed summoning as a downtime activity to get the minion of an Oni. So, like, I guess the Oni is the big bad guy that you have to defeat, not the Maho Sukai, because he doesn't really have a good technique. He just has the ability to summon something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he can't do anything really in the moment that's gonna mess you up, except for those like cursing spells in the core book. Which can give you like some debuffs and stuff like that. Make the PC's life harder.
Let's see.
And then Maho is really built.
we can get undead, which is just like more ads. We can get like we can have Oni and some undead, and like the Maho Tsukai himself isn't the problem. It's the ads apparently.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the abilities in this are like Dark Reflection. It's another like support spell that you're doing outside to like spy on your enemies or whatever. You know, it feels very very much like these are intended to be spells that an NPC character that you create as an antagonist uses to like harass the characters. Not really like things that a PC Meihosukai would use in game context, unless you're like they said, having a whole party of Meihosukai, because otherwise you're trying to use any of this stuff in a group with like a lion samurai and a crane who aren't on board with the whole evil thing is gonna just get you killed. Like, there's nobody's gonna.
People might point out Sword of Blood as a like, oh, that's a good combat thing that a Mahosukai can use to. No, not really. What do? You like it first. It's a rank 2. All of the invocations that create a weapon are rank 1, right?
Yeah.
You need a TN2 to cast it. If you use your own blood, you take more fatigue, so it hurts you to make this.
You're already behind the curve at that point.
And what does it do? It just makes a weapon.
Yeah, with
a weapon with the unholy quality. That's it.
Yeah. That's about it.
That's it.
You can do opportunities, but also at like rank 2, are you going to have the extra dice to keep to make sure that you have the like massive amount of opportunities that you can use to do some fancy stuff with it?
The best one?
Probably not.
The best one costs 2 opportunity, and when you inflict a critical strike, you remove fatigue from yourself. Which is great. That's pretty great. Yeah, but that's expensive.
That's expensive, like immediately expensive. And what you really want to do is spend 4 so you can summon it, make an attack, hope that you get a critical strike, and get some fatigue back from having cast the spell in the first place. Right? And if you do that, then you need 2 successes and 4 opportunity out of it. So unless you're like an NPC with a massive amount of stats because you're a Meihosukai NPC and you have your like 5 martial or whatever, or 5 spiritual capabilities, you're not really... it's not going to go your way, right?
It's not.
If you're a PC, you're going to have to be a rank 4 or 5 PC to make this work the way you really want.
If you're an NPC, I have to make my stats better just to make up the power difference between this bad guy and the PCs to make it a good threat.
Now, if you do it, so the way that I would see to do this is don't play a Meihosukai outright, because it says that anybody in the main book, it says that anybody can learn Meiho. It does. You don't have to have it as one of your class descriptors in order to take Meiho spells, right? You can anytime learn yourself a Meiho spell.
It's Maho. It's
Maho. Sorry.
Maho.
Yeah, Maho
thank you.
Yeah. So you can, anybody can learn a Maho spell. Anybody can go down that route at any point in time. So the best way to do this is to primarily be a Shugenja or a fighter, right, or like a Bushi class, and then take some Meiho spells that will help you to like augment what you do as a player or as an NPC. So like the majority of spells you're using aren't going to be Maho. They're going to be regular elementalist magic or whatever, and then or like a swordplay in kata. And then you're going to cast a couple of Maho spells to boost you up and get you over the hit. Put adds into the combat. Maybe use a blood sword. I don't know if you really would even want to use a blood sword. You probably would be better off just casting like a weapon, elemental weapon, and then using that the whole time. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but there's a lot of layers here that you have to like get over in order to make Maho really benefit.
So one of my favorite parts of this book is the Oni generation part.
Oh, it's fantastic.
And this Oni generation part of the book kind of ticks me off. Not because like I hate it in any way, shape, or form. It's because this is the only place in all of this version of L5R that tells you how to make an NPC.
Yeah, and it's for Oni.
And it's for Oni. No one knows how to calculate conflict rank, except for Oni, which they tell you how to do conflict rank.
Yeah.
Nobody tells you like And
it's powerful. Conflict rank is powerful in this.
no, it's not. It just tells you what kind of level it's just how to balance with the party. That's what conflict rank is. If a conflict rank of
Sure,
military 4 means like uh uh it's the same as like a rank 4 character.
sure. But if you look at the levels, right? The conflict rank levels of most of the lesser Oni, it's like 10 military.
Yes.
You know what I mean? 8 military. So it's there. And then if you like conversely go back to the monsters area in the beginning of the book, they have much lower ranks,
Yes.
much lower ranks in those conflict rankings. So it just goes to show you, like, they need to flush out that system, that NPC creation system, a lot more.
Oh yeah.
I think this is a good start, but they need to have more solid rules on how you create NPCs, what to expect when creating an NPC outside of just Oni and monsters and stuff like that.
The
It's
number
hard
one
to
question I
glean that
get
from just looking at basic NPCs.
the number one question I get when people are like, "Hey, I'm running this L5R game and I want to put this in. How do I build an NPC?" And
Mhm.
the thing I always say is, you just make it up. How do I calculate
Yeah,
conflict rank? No, make it up.
yeah. Make a chart that says this ability I expect will be like a 2 military, uh, based on the fact that it is similar in power to a rank 2 technique. That's what I would say. Something like that.
Right.
This ability that I'm giving them is equivalent to XYZ. This intrigue is kind of like this ability that's for intrigue is kind of like an intrigue rank 2 because it's equal to like a Shuji of rank 2. And then just add that up over time, and that gives you your rank.
So,
But it's like a pick and choose your poison.
um, if you're watching us live on YouTube, you can join the conversation with some chat.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, how new is this book? This book is actually years old. This is
yeah.
probably
One of the
what,
first ones that came out.
2019? I don't think it's this decade, but it's the most recent edition of L5R.
It's true. The most
Um,
recent edition, and it was like the second book that came out, third
yeah,
book.
the second book.
Uh,
Technically the third. You got the Core Rule Book, then
Yeah,
Emerald Empire, which was like
and then you
a
got,
big
which is like a
overview
fluff
book,
book,
and this is the first of the clan books. It's the third book.
and it was the
I'm not.
first like
I'm not
really
flicking you
big.
off. It's this. It's this finger. it's
Yeah, it's also the first like real like crunch book that came out. Because
yes, the
Emerald
real
Empire was
crunch
kind
book.
of far more fluff than anything else.
So yeah, it's
Um,
2019. This is a 2019 book. What part of the book would you like to go to next, Tarek?
I think so. One of the big aspects of the Shadowlands that interests me is the corruption aspect. So let's talk about maybe the corruption taint and how that affects
What
PCs and players.
page?
That's 132,
132. You got it.
right before Oni Generation. So it goes into a little bit of detail about the nature of corruption in the world, the nature of the taint. I wish they leaned further into this in the spirit, what was it, spiritual realms, spirit realms, the one of the other books that came out, because in black lore, right, let's go back to your coding of
Black
whether
Lore.
it's
This is
previous
a
lore or
red
now.
lore book,
Yes,
a
it's
red
a red
canon
lore
book,
book.
but we're talking
Going
about the
back to the black lore
previous canon
books,
that this overrode.
every realm, right, every celestial realm had taint associated with it. So if you were Yumido, which is the realm of dreaming, you could get, if you went into the realm of dreaming yourself as a corporeal being, you would gain taint from that realm. If you went to Meido, you'd gain taint from Meido. If you went to Yomi, which is like the heavenly realm, you would gain taint from Yomi. And if you went to Jigoku or were too close to the Shadowlands or dabbling in Shadowlands like methods, you might contract taint from Jigoku, right? Which is hell. In this edition, the only real taint to be found or to be implemented is the afflictions from the Shadowlands taint. And I guess you could potentially like play with that idea with other realms, but they don't really explicitly say that in these rules.
There's a book
but
all about the other realms called Celestial Realms.
yes, but there's no taint associated with
No,
them.
there isn't.
So you could play with the afflicted condition and just like homebrew it that this affliction is not coming from Jigoku and instead is coming from Yumido, right? But there's no necessary rules for that in this edition. But there used to be rules for all of these realms.
Yeah.
And how they affected you if you were tainted by them, and how they countered taint from other realms too. Like if you were tainted by the realm of Hungry Dead, then you couldn't get Jigoku taint, but you had the taint of the Hungry Dead, and you had to act out those issues that were coming to you, where you just like wanted slaughter and bloodlust and had the stuff.
So what you're saying
and
is,
then each.
you
I
hate
wish
this
they
new
leaned
version.
into that more.
Yeah.
No, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I just wish that they leaned more into the aspects of corruption and how that affects you. Because Jigoku isn't the only realm that's tied to Ningendo, right? That's tied to the material plane in terms of like D&D that you can be afflicted from. But I do like the fact that they went into that detail to a small degree in this book about talking about the taint, talking about corruption, what it means in like terms of like in real terms, like what does an affliction look like? Do you get like rashes on your skin or thickened nails or weird behaviors or kind of mental derangements? Those things, and the corruption section of this book kind of goes into those a little bit, talking about kind of what those effects are. And then you have like Shadowlands advantages and disadvantages that specifically add on layers of what it means to be tainted or afflicted by the Shadowlands. I thought it was really interesting. They implemented those in the adventure module that came out with the Shadowlands book, and I think the crossplay there was very interesting.
We have got to talk about the good guys, because we're just talking about the Shadowlands, and there's a huge section of the book that we're missing that we got to talk about. So
let's talk about.
Do you want to talk about the Falcon or the Crab first?
Let's talk about the Falcon first. They're first in the book.
Talk about what?
The Falcon first, because
they're not first in the book. They're actually second in the book, but that's okay. I like them. I like them a lot. So here's the Falcon clan, and they have a very clear like what they are.
Yeah, they do. They have a very clear kind of breakdown of their focus around like dealing with ghosts, hunting down spirits like lost spirits in this world, and giving you a very clear, like there's a lot more information about the Falcon than if you go back into the previous book that we did and their little blurbs about the different factions and clans. This has a way more in-depth breakdown of who the Falcon are, what their alliances are, what their rivalries are with different clans. It goes into detail about like you get some NPCs, some major NPCs for them.
Lady Mizoku, you get the Council of Twilight, who they are, what's going on in the Castle of the Falcon, what's up with the Kuni and them, what's up with the Hare clan and them, because the Hare are,
what kind of a rivalry they have. Yeah,
exactly. It's a lot of good information here. The only one thing that rankles me is that they put their castle, their land that they were given by the Emperor, just happens to be a ghost-infested land. Their valley is like the lands of the Falcon are in the Valley of Spirits, and it's filled with ghosts. And what do the Falcon hunt?
Ghosts.
So they're terrible at their job.
Yeah.
They really suck at it, apparently.
There's just too many of them to deal with, right? Like, I don't know. And also, if somebody dies in like another part of the Empire, do they just wander down to the Valley of Ghosts? Yeah. And they're like, we're gonna go fuck with the Toritaka for a while. Like that's
what you do.
Yeah, that's what you do. Once you die and you're stuck on Ningendo, you just go hunt. You just go fuck with the Toritaka.
Hey, where are you going? I'm going to the Valley of the Spirits. Why? Because there's guys there that say they hunt ghosts, and I'm getting kind of bored, and I kind of want to, mess with those guys.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, they suck at hunting us. Don't worry about it. no real challenge out
We
there.
we're
Uh,
making it easy for them by going to them so they don't have to hunt us
exactly.
down.
Yeah. There's a whole valley for us, you know. There's water parks. There's yeah, it's a spirit wonderland down there.
You know that
Um,
that might be a way to square that circle, is to say the Valley of the Spirits is not a place where spirits want it to congregate because it's a place on Earth that's
thinner in the
thinner that's
membrane
thinner
of
in the
yeah.
realms, but rather the Toritaka made it a place that like magnet spirits. They somehow made it that so the spirits would come to them so they could better
Yeah,
train everybody and be like that would be
definitely.
how you do that. It's
That's a
like
smart way to go about
uh-huh.
it. Yeah.
It's like yes, this
I
we have scrolls in ghost water parks. We built ghost Disneyland for them and now they come to us.
exactly. Now they want to go. They can't stay away. Yeah. The prices are too good. They'd be losing out if they didn't come this way. The ghost coins really stretch in our valley over here. Um, they also I like the vision for how they set up the Falcon clan in terms of like their builds as well.
What's their
I like the Minor clan.
what's their school? It's the Toritaka Phantom Hunter Shugenja School.
Yeah, it's a shoot.
And their ability is otherworldly beings treat your vigilance as being increased by your school rank. When you make a check to search for otherworldly beings, make an initiative check in a conflict against them. If you succeed, add bonus successes equal to your school rank. So it's very like against one thing. It's useless against everybody else. But that one
Yeah,
thing you're really
that
good
one
at.
time that a ghost shows up, you're gonna kick ass.
Yeah, you're gonna
That's when
see
you
it.
shine,
You're gonna see it, and you're gonna be able to hit it.
and you're gonna be able to build a water park for them.
Yes.
This book also has one of my favorite classes in the entire game, which is the Kitsu Medic School, which is literally
Oh,
just you are a trained physician. you
where
have
is
no
that?
magical
Kitsu
ability.
Medic
You have
School.
no real attacking ability, but you do know how to deal with scientific medicine.
It's not even a
Like
Shugenja
that's
school.
it.
It's for those Kitsu who don't have magical powers. You're now a
Yeah,
doctor.
you're just like a field doctor. Which I love. I love that idea that you're just like this is the perfect class to have that one advantage that you're like a skillful birth like what is it wet nurse. You're like an expert wet nurse or whatever. There's an advantage we were talking about in the other book where you're just like you're great at taking care of babies basically.
Did I miss a
And
rule somewhere? It says when you perform a medicine check to remove fatigue or a condition, that character removes additional fatigue up to your school rank. Now,
yeah,
I know rules where you can remove a condition, but I don't know any medicine checks.
there are there
Are they
there are rules
techniques?
there are rules for how you remove a condition, and I believe when you rest, you can do a medicine check to increase the amount of
Yes.
fatigue that you get.
Okay, that
So,
makes
and
sense.
that's the thing. Like, you can do a medicine check to increase the amount of fatigue you get when you rest.
So my
Um,
favorite of all of the schools is actually the Miramoto Taoist Blade, which lets you use Kiho
oh,
through
it's so
katana.
awesome, but it's so broken.
It's
I
broken
can
as
use a
hell.
sword. I can use a sword and deliver all of my kata from it. That is so ridiculously good. Because think about it, the biggest weakness of being like a Tagashi monk or whatever is that your critical strikes are always going to be like one or two because you're using your fist or your feet, and they don't really do much extra critical strike stuff. So if you use your sword to do all of that stuff from, oh my god, such an improvement. And it just has to be, I think, a one-handed sword, right?
Yeah.
As long as it's in a one-handed
It's
grip.
like this is the kind of power imbalance that you find in this version of L5R where you have like, hey, my vigilance is increased by 2 against ghosts. What can you do? I can use Kiho through my swords. I can basically Dragon Ball Z my swords.
Exactly.
I can.
And
I am.
not only,
I am a character from Bleach, and I Gasuga Tensho you.
exactly. It is so fucking broken. Like that ability that like you punch the ground and you can hit somebody at range. Now, if you're wielding a sword, you take that kata, you can stab somebody at range and do extra elemental damage on top of that. Like, what the? It's so good. That
We
is
have
so ridiculous.
we have an important comment here from Pedro. Pedro, how you doing, pal? He says, "Hello. I'm an experienced game master, but fairly new to Legend of the Five Rings. I'm reading the books and preparing for a small campaign for my players. All of us are coming from D&D 3.5.
3.5.
Any advice?"
Ooh. Okay. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Okay. So the good news is 3.5 has a lot of complexity to it. So you probably won't be overwhelmed by the complexity of this book or this like edition of books. But it is a completely different mindset that you have to get into to play L5R in terms of like social mechanics. There's a whole setup for social mechanics, social intrigue, communication, like getting which in this edition I'd say just throw out. Just it's there, it exists, but it's bad. It's like really bad, the social mechanics. You might not want to like there use the basic rules and don't use the type of encounter. What are they called? Intrigue encounters?
The
Is
intrigue
that what it's called?
encounters? Yeah, don't
Yeah,
use
don't
the
use
intrigue
just
encounters.
it will just make a basic discussion that you might have in any regular RPG into a combat encounter that you have to then navigate, which is so silly. I think it's like the worst.
Basically, it turns the social interaction into something that works mechanically like a combat encounter. It doesn't become combat. No one's throwing swords.
No,
but you're
throwing words that are sharp.
That are yeah.
Your tongue
So
is sharp.
this is my advice. If you're coming from Dungeons and Dragons, in Dungeons and Dragons, you're mostly going through dungeons, right? There are big bad guys that are kind of like over the top, or like there
Your
are
boss
liches
enemies,
and
yeah.
Mind flayers and whatnot. But here's the thing: L5R in a lot of their stories is about trying to understand other people
and yourself.
There's honor, and that honor matters, and it's very important to kind of understand honor,
and set
also
that expectation that the players should understand.
Yeah,
honor.
communicate to your players what you think honor is as well. Because if you're not clear about how you understand honor, you will start giving out player honor awards and honor penalties, and players will get bitter about not getting some certain awards or getting penalties for things. So just be aware of that. It can be a point of contention. If you want an adventure, an L5R adventure that is a lot like a Dungeons and Dragons adventure, I highly suggest the adventure that is part of the Shadowlands book called Mask of the Oni. Mask of the Oni is about the Shadowlands. The characters are hunting a Mahosukai that go into the Shadowlands. The characters have to go in after it. And there is an old castle called Daylight Castle. It's the home of the Crab Haruma family. And it has fallen into the Shadowlands. And there's a lot of history there. People will be able to understand like what the Shadowlands is, why it's a bad thing, what the taint is, and all of these concepts will be able to fit into place because of the Mask of the Oni adventure. And it's kind of a dungeon stomp. It's kind of like you're exploring an old castle with monsters in it and ghosts and stuff like that.
It's kind of a dungeon delving.
There's a very clear bad guy, so that might be something that would be right up the alley of somebody coming from Dungeons and Dragons and into Legend of the Five Rings.
I have something to bring up, Corey. Sasha is still here in the room with me. She's not on camera, but she's in the room, and we share the mic. So I wanted to say she is in a unique position to maybe speak on this because she was primarily couched in D&D for most of her play career and has recently joined into the L5R bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe she might be able to speak to this a little more clearly.
You want her to sit at your table there and take over your mic?
Well, Yeah, she'll be able to talk from her mic and just give her perspective.
Okay.
If you don't. Okay. I'm gonna toss it over to Sasha.
Did you set up my mic?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Hi. I'm not on cam because I wasn't originally going to be a part of the stream today, but I'm still here. I'm Sasha, and I like Pathfinder specifically a lot. But I think that personally, L5R was really conducive to somebody who like played D&D, especially if you're like me and you play D&D and it upsets you how there's not a lot of rules for like social stuff, and then you have to like pull stuff right out of your butt. And L5R kind of gives you like that way more like narrative style of play that I really like. If you're like struggling to find players and stuff for D&D and you're like who are really interested in the narrative and don't just want it to be like a clicky clacky crunchy like dice rolling thing, L5R still has the clicky clacky and crunchy stuff, but it lends itself to like way better like intense narrative storytelling, which I really liked. And honestly, it wasn't all that hard. I will say you will never understand how movement works. You will ask your GM 20 times how movement works because that is a little confusing. And then at some point you will get tired and you will probably make a printout that you will stick on your back wall where you can see it at all times. But honestly, I think it's a good. I think that if you like D&D and you like high narrative stuff and you're into the whole like samurai aesthetic, then yeah, totally.
I agree. It's a great system for allowing you to tell narrative stories or like cinematic storytelling. I would say at first, don't get super bogged down in the rules. Try building stories. Or like
I would really recommend watching some people play it though, because there's not, especially if you don't have friends who can like help you out, it is a little bit different, but I don't think it's so different that you're gonna get like whiplash trying to learn it.
It's not super daunting, but I would stick to the core rulebook, and like Corey said, the first couple of adventure modules that were released with this edition, so like the Emerald, the Topaz Championship, the Castle of the Emerald Champion, and the Shadowlands Mask of the Oni adventure are really good. For the first two are really good at teaching you the basic rules. The exact first one, the Topaz Championship, doesn't even give you the full rule set. It gives you like a like pared down version of the rules.
It's the beginner game box set.
Yeah, and it helps you kind of understand the basics of how the rules are going to work. The next adventure, that Castle of the Emerald Champion, expands on those rules and puts them out to a level that will help you to really explore the rule set a bit more.
And that's free online. And that's free online.
Yeah.
And also, not to plug Corey too hard, but like he does have a whole series that breaks down L5R on his other channel, not the live one. Are we on the live one right now?
No. We're on the regular channel.
On the main channel?
Yeah.
Okay, so then on this channel, he has like a whole series about it, and it would be very helpful, especially if you don't have like a community that you can go to help learn this. Like you don't have like someone who can mentor you in it. That is like great,
invaluable resource. And there's also so I agree also that Mask of the Oni is a really good adventure module to like intro your players that will feel D&D. It feels like a dungeon diving adventure because you kind of go into the Shadowlands and then you're on your own going through there, kind of by yourselves, by your own hook or crook, trying to get through all of it. It is deadly, I will say, 100%. Probably the most deadly adventure module we played through. When we've played through all of the official L5R adventure modules on the channel, and that one by far felt the most life-threatening at every moment. But at the same time, it was extraordinarily like great payoffs for everything that you go through. There's a lot of learning. You get exposed to so much of the like lore and history and different facets of the setting. But it feels really like organically good to go through those challenges.
So let's finish off the book. We got one last section. I think that's important. I mean, we could talk about the courage section. We could talk about the crab section. Where do you want to go for the final thing, final part? Do we want to talk about the crab families?
Let's talk about the crab.
Okay.
There's a lot of meat there, and that's what people want. People like the crab clan.
I know they. I mean, they voted for the crab clan. We should talk about the crab. And right off the bat, on the first page, on page 49, the guest house. Did you read that part where they're like, "Oh yeah, all crab families have this house as guest house." But like, if you're from out of town, if you're like a crane wandering through a crab, and they'll put you up for the night, they won't put you in the guest house. They'll you can be with the family. So what's that guest house for back there? I don't know. Tarek, what's that guest house for?
Weird
these houses are specifically designed for those who arrive unexpectedly, and especially so at night, because they don't trust the people who arrive at night. You got to put them out in the house to protect yourself.
So let's say, right, you're a farmer and your son was kind of drafted to fight the Shadowlands, and he went missing, MIA, but he's back now, months later.
Yeah.
you
totally
want
cool.
to believe. You want to believe that's your son.
But just in case, he's going in the shed.
But you know outside. For sure that there are stories all over the place of how you woke up the next day and your entire family was eaten, and a little note was left saying, "Thank you for food." Yeah, because you have to imagine, this is like it's like the German Black Forest, right? Like there's all sorts of evil nasty out there. Do you really want to invite that into your home? Like, if you're somebody that we know for sure, oh, you're a crane, you've never been in the Shadowlands before in your life, come live in the house with us. But if you're just some dude in the night who's like, I just need a place to rest, you don't trust that person, because that's probably a bog hag.
Yeah,
and they're going to eat your soul. Yeah. It's a great idea.
For the most part, I have to say, like, everything that, for the most part, was in Black Canon is in Red Canon when it comes to the Crab Clan. But I guess we can just talk about what the Crab Clan is and who they are. I mean, there's 4 families, right? There's Hida, Haruma, Caillou, Kuni, Yasuki.
And Yasuki.
5 families. And the Hida, let's talk about the Hida last. Let's talk about the Yasuki first.
Let's talk about the Yasuki first. The Yasuki are a family in between clans. They were part of the Crab Clan. They were part of the Crane Clan. They have a torrid history of betrayal of each family and being betrayed by each clan. They are merchants. They are skilled negotiators. They are extraordinarily wealthy, and they make sure at this point that the crab have all of the resources they need to operate not only all of their vast military operations, but all of their lands, administer all their lands. So they're very good at doing that.
They are courtiers that are also merchants. They deal with everything. They don't have an honorable center. That's not to say that they're dishonorable. That's just to say that the family as a whole doesn't really have like a moral guiding force to them. So they'll employ whatever it means to get their job done, which feels very crab-like.
Yeah, they're pragmatic. So where every other clan sees mercantilism as like below their station as a samurai, the Yasuki understand that it is a necessity to understand mercantilism in order to benefit the clan that they are part of, to keep them fed, to keep them resourced, to make sure that their lands are being utilized as best as possible. Like, they are very good. They take extraordinary pride in doing that and doing that very well. And they are probably the only family in all of the clans that takes that niche to the extreme. They are the best at what they do, bar none. And that used to be a benefit for the Crane, and is no longer.
So
That
let's
is
talk.
something that the crab enjoy.
So now we're gonna move on to their second courtier family. Yes, the crab clan have 2 courtier families.
That's true. Yeah, they do.
Their second one are artisans called the Caillou, and they're the ones who build the wall.
I love the Caillou mainly because of one detail. They're the only family in the entire empire whose Gempuku ceremony is a written exam. It's awesome. You have to like pass advanced mathematics and engineering classes in order to become a Caillou, and that is awesome to me. I think that is so hilarious.
You just
they
walk
have, like,
up.
a math.
You walk up to the wall and you see all of these kids like going up the stairs to the top of the wall with these little like parachute contraptions and stuff. It's like, what are we doing today? Oh, they're going up to do an egg drop. They're Caillou students doing an egg drop.
Yeah. If their egg breaks, then they fail out. They become a Hida. Send them to the wall. They're not smart enough. It's so good. It's so funny. They're like the physician, or not the physician, the physicists.
Yes, they're
of
the
the
physicists.
of the empire.
They build
doing,
war
like,
machines.
Trajectory. Yeah, they build siege engines. They build fortifications. They build like creative weaponry. Like they are artisans, just like they're probably as good as the Kakita like swordsmiths and stuff, but in a broader view. And they used to have like a bunch of different specialties that they could go into. Where the Caillou family, you joined the Caillou family, you got the Caillou engineering school, and you chose which like mastery of engineering you were going to go into.
So here's
I don't
a
know whether
problem.
they do that anymore, but it's still
I
interesting.
have a problem here, and that is no
Okay.
rules for siege engines, and there are no rules for
True.
siege engines in the supplement book that deals with war either.
That's true. They do have siege as a mass battle
Action.
type,
Yeah.
like an action, but there's no rules on how to make all that stuff or use it.
Yeah.
It's just you're in the war.
One of the
There you
things
go.
that I liked about the Caillou in their description was that they make the most excellent gifts in the Empire. Everybody loves a Caillou gift because they're always so,
Well made.
yeah, detail oriented. It's kind of like
Yeah,
that
I love the guy.
that Japanese like ethic of making things like really really good and really robust.
Mm-hmm. Really,
Um,
detail focused too.
I guess we're going to
You
go
wanna go
on
to
to the
the-
Shugenja family next, the Kuni.
Kuni, yeah, I like the Kuni. The Kuni are another oddity of the Empire, and I have to say, all of the families of the crab are couched in this like idea of pragmatism that I love, and the Kuni are no exception to this. They are Shugenja, just like everybody else is Shugenja, but they are willing to do so much more than any other Shugenja in terms of research and understanding, where they are like the foremost experts on anatomy because they're like, who cares about touching dead things? We're gonna like do what is it called when you
To me,
what is the term?
dissect.
Not dissect. There's another term for after somebody dies, you take them apart and figure out how they died. What is that called?
Autopsy.
Autopsies. Yeah, they do autopsies, and not only of humans but of goblins and stuff too, to try to figure out how the fuck goblins work and how the fuck Onis work, and trying to figure out all that stuff. They're true scientists.
So to me, what the Kuni are like, you've done some, your Star Wars lore from back in the day, back in like when they were expanding all of the Star Wars stuff the first time, and now it's all legacy stuff. Like the Darksiders would use their dark side magic to create new monsters and use it to like extract information directly from your brain.
Yeah.
That's what the Kuni are to me. They're the something dark side of
Of the Empire?
of the Empire.
Of Shugenja?
They
I can see that. Yeah.
They could create like a monstrosity has no taint in it. It's just
Yeah, exactly. But is some crazy giant monster. They also are experts in the taint, so they can help protect their clan and their families from being tainted or being afflicted. They create jade petal tea to help defend against the taint. And they are witch hunters who go and hunt down all sorts of nasty things and protect the Empire from
Yep.
it.
They're
So they have a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah. They feel like Shadowlands special forces when they show up.
They do. They
Like,
really
is there
do.
Shadowlands in the area? Cooney Special Forces go, and they'll like track.
Yeah.
They're like the CIA for the Crab Clan.
Yes, and they very much have that feel to them, 100% in the lore and in practice.
So let's talk about the people who try to be the CIA but fail, the Haruma.
Oh God, I love the Haruma so much, but having lost your entire castle to the Shadowlands is really a big blow. You know what I mean?
Everything they do, like all of their stuff seems to like go to shit.
Yeah, they get screwed the most for sure, but they're the most persistent as a result because of that. They started out with their castle in the Shadowlands before the wall was made. They were the advanced warning system for when things were coming through the Shadowlands. They would figure it out, and they would go and warn the rest of the clan to get ready for an oncoming Shadowlands band or whatever, a horde. They are experts at scouting and doing maneuvers against the Shadowlands in that sense, out in the Shadowlands. They're some of the bravest people in the world because they are willing to go and exist in the Shadowlands for extended periods of time, though their directive is to like observe and report, don't engage. Like they have learned through many years of trial and error, do not engage. If you see something, come and let everybody else know so that we can prepare. Don't risk your life for this. And they're very like strong and stalwart people who that is their lot in life, and they perform that duty admirably.
If you want to play a character that is a no nonsense shinobi type character that isn't dishonorable, like the Haruma is the way to go. You want to play that honorable shinobi that's kind of like a good guy spy. Yeah, Haruma's the way to go.
I will say this, Haruma are one of my favorite families in all of the Empire. They're probably my top 5 favorite families, favorite character type are the Haruma. And the fact that they are landless and do this all without having like a major castle or lands or resources or stuff just speaks to the like level of dedication and effort they put into their everyday lives. I love it. I think they're very well.
So their castle is Daylight Castle, which is the setting of Mask of the Oni.
Yeah,
you go there.
That's all we should say. Let them play the adventure and figure out why that is a painful thing for them.
Yes. Okay, let's go to the Big Daddy. Let's go to Daddy Hida.
Daddy Hida,
or big muscle mommies. Hida. The home of the big muscle mommies.
Big muscle mommy, step on me, mommy. Yeah, the Hida are the stoutest of characters in L5R, I think. I don't know that there's anyone else who's known for strength, like pure sheer strength and force of will, as the Hida. They're also some of the toughest people in the Empire. Their technique in Black, maybe even in this one, was just to like ignore the fact that they got hit. Like you used to hit a Hida, and they could roll a die and be like, if I roll higher than the damage you did, you didn't do any damage to me, so suck it. And now I think their technique is still similar, but it's not as intense.
I forget. I don't want to go look it up. Don't make me look it up.
Yeah, that's fine.
But they are your tank characters. If you're building a tank type of character, the Hida is the easiest way to do that. That said, I think
really good damage too.
A lot of people like the Crab and are fans of Crab because of the Hida, in which they like them because you don't have to follow the social norms, which makes it easier to roleplay, and you have that built-in excuse. Oh, I'm a Hida. And 2, being really tough and strong just makes it easier to play in a role-playing game where the main focus is you fight.
Don't die. Yeah.
Yeah. So I get it. I see that. The thing is, though, is that the Crab also give you permission. It feels like it gives you permission not to think or that might makes right. I am stronger and therefore I should be in charge.
So long as you're a Hida, yeah. Everyone else,
Which
everyone
is
else feels like they just got intimidated by the Hida into doing their job really well. Like the Hida were like, our job is to stand on the wall and fight and die. All of you do everything else, and if you make one mistake, we're gonna walk over and bonk you on the head with our Tetsubo, and that's it for you. That's the end. But the Hida, so we had a character, we had Crystal played a Hida in the past. She played a fantastic Hida, I think. And yeah, you go through this process of learning that as a crab, you don't like they're so practical that they don't really care about all the niceties and etiquette of the rest of the world. They're much more focused on I have a job to do. I'm going to do that job no matter the cost, and that is my focus day in and day out. And if you want to play that kind of a character who's like a paragon of both physicality or like mental excellence, I think Crab is a really good way to go. They have a very unique sense about them in terms of the world of Rokugan, and there's just so much you can do with the type of characters.
You have a much more romanticized view on why you should play a Hida. For me, they're easy to play because they're big and strong and they don't have manners, so you can, kind of be yourself and not have to worry about all of the traditions of Rokugan. So
yeah, they're great, especially great if you're like a first time player.
Exactly.
Of LPVR, they're perfect. A Hida or even just a Crab in general is a really good way of going about it. I wouldn't suggest maybe a Yasuki or like a Caillou for your first character, but pretty much any other of the families, you're good to go on. Just like I'm playing a Hida, I'm playing a Haruma, I'm playing a Kuni. And let's just roll. See how this goes.
All right, let's put this on the shelf, baby. Okay, I got my little ranking system here. So we can put this on the physical. We can buy a physical copy as a player or a narrator. We can just get the PDF and be like, well, that's fine. We'll put it in our stuff for later in case we need it. Or we can just pass it by in the store. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
So where does this go?
For me, I think personally, this is a must-have book. It gives you so much value for expanding the world lore, including the Shadowlands, including the Crab history, and like details about the families and about the Toritaka, even about the Nezumi. There's so much world building in this book.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about the Nezumi. There's a Nezumi section here that's way more robust, really robust than the Rid of the Wilds book.
Exactly, and on top of that, you have a lot of great crunch in here from multiple different perspectives, from the Shadowlands perspective and NPC perspective, from player characters, new classes, new advantages, new artifacts and items, new weapon building rules,
item profiles, like the patterns and stuff, and that was new for
patterns.
The scroll patterns and stuff. All of that was new for this book.
Yeah, all of that was new, and in this book, you have so much value for the money, for the cost of this book, and the adventure module that came alongside it was excellent. I thought.
Okay,
amazing.
So is this?
So this is definitely a
shelf.
Physical
This
copy.
is a shelf. We're buying a physical copy.
A physical copy, put it on the shelf.
Is it a narrator or a player? Do you think the players need this book?
I think a player has just as much value out of this book because of the extra world building information, because of the different rules that you can get that are specific to players. This is just a great book to have.
All right, we've ranked it. It's gotten our top rank. Congratulations to everybody who voted for the Crab. You picked a good book.
Yeah, great book. Actually, a fantastic book.
One more comment here. I really like the idea of the Crab who knows all of the societal rules and uses his crane lion biases against them.
Yeah, that's a Yasuki right there. Yasuki is perfect for that.
Okay,
that's exactly that.
Before we go, I forgot to say, what is your favorite part of the Shadowlands book? What is the thing that you love the most about it?
To be honest, I think we kind of touched on it earlier. but I think that the NPC generation rules for Oni, even though they're only specific to Oni, there is enough there that you can kind of extrapolate information there and try to apply it to other NPC creation templates. And this is pretty much the only place you're going to get that kind of information. I'd say that's probably my favorite part of this book, just because that's going to give you a lot of value as a GM that no other book can give.
God, there's so much. There's the new weapons that are actually useful for like Shadowlands stuff.
Yeah.
Shoot. But I'm gonna say, what can I say, man? There's a lot
So
to
many.
like.
There's so many. There's even artifacts in this book that you don't get anywhere else.
I'm gonna say that the new advantages and disadvantages are really great. Like you can be a friend of the Nezumi. You can get Dead Eyes, which you're fearless. You can
Nowrin had on our current adventure.
Yeah. And the anxieties, reformed Mahosukai. It's like I was that and I'm not anymore. That's amazing.
Demon wound is this awesome disadvantage of an adversity. You have a wound from a demon that isn't tainted, but you're still carrying that like alongside
Wait,
you.
where is that?
Awesome one. Demon is on 97.
Oh yeah, Demon Wound. Yeah, I see it now. Yeah.
Even Lost Name, which feels more like a Nezumi thing.
So yeah, the advantages and disadvantages they put in this book are are more specific to this book, but are kind of cool because they're not as general, but they give you more kind of a bit of personality because they're kind of that specificness,
And if you're gonna run a game that's close or in proximity to the Shadowlands or has themes of the Shadowlands, there's also advantages and disadvantages that are specific to being Shadowlands tainted that you can't get anywhere else. That's also really interesting.
All right. Well, you know what? I didn't even show this stuff I was gonna show this stuff on the screen, but I didn't. Whoops. I got the letter D. That's the letter D, everybody. Okay, there it is. Advantages and disadvantages. Oh my goodness. It's a wall of text. But yeah, they're really good. The book is all around great. Thank you for recommending this book. Tarek, do you want to do this again where I put out a poll and then in 2 weeks we read the book?
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay.
100.
So I'm going to put out a poll.
And then in between we can choose a book from a different series or a different game.
Do you want to do L5R? Should we just do L5R books, or would you like to grab a supplement?
Yeah, let's grab L5R stuff. Let's
just go through all of the new L5R stuff.
Yeah, and then even or if players really like old L5R stuff, me and Corey have played, I think, every single edition of this game. So if you want to put stuff out there, just let us know ahead of time. We have played those editions.
I can only put 4 options on a poll. So what are the 4?
Well, you choose. Yeah. Pick them out. Yeah.
We're not gonna go to older editions yet. We're gonna focus in here and get this version of L5R done. And I'm really dreading Emerald Empire because it's such a huge book. It's massive, and also Path of Waves is just massive.
Yeah. Those massive new core rule books.
So don't be surprised those aren't on the poll.
Yeah. Those might be ones that we need to do a core for the core rule books. Those might be just separate core rule books.
Tell you what, maybe we can do like a Patreon drive, and when we get a certain amount of money, we can.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't mind that. Yeah.
Anyways, thank everybody for watching. Thank you definitely for giving us your chat in the chat. I'm so happy that you have questions because we have answers and we like to engage with our fans here. From Tarek, Sasha, who was here for a second, and myself, my name is Corey. Go roll some dice.